Joseph's story begins in the hills of Hebron, where the family of Jacob lived among the tents and flocks of the early patriarchs. Among Jacob's 12 sons, Joseph stood apart, not by his own doing, but by the affection of a father who cherished him as the son of his old age. Joseph's life was marked from the beginning by a distinctive favor, symbolized by the richly embroidered coat placed upon his shoulders. The garment was more than fabric. It was a declaration of blessing, identity, and destiny. Yet such favor rarely comes without cost. And in a family already strained by rivalry, Joseph's distinction ignited the simmering resentment of his brothers. They watched him from a distance, seeing the way Jacob spoke to him, the way he trusted him, and the way he allowed him privileges others did not receive. The coat, with its vibrant colors and regal patterns, became a constant reminder to the others that Joseph was marked for something different. And beneath their forced smiles and silent nods grew a quiet storm of jealousy that would one day erupt into violence. Joseph, however, did not see the danger building around him. His heart was young, open, and eager. He dreamed dreams, vivid, symbolic, prophetic dreams that stirred his spirit. In these visions, he saw sheaves in the field bowing before his own. He saw the sun, moon, and stars giving him reverence. Innocently, he shared these visions with his family, unaware that his words would only deepen the wounds already forming. His brothers, already threatened by his favored status, now saw in Joseph a future where even they would bow before him. Their anger boiled, and a plan of betrayal began to shape itself in their hearts. Yet Joseph's dreams were not simply a young man's imagination. They were seeds of destiny planted by the hand of God, seeds that would one day grow into salvation for nations. But before growth comes burial, and Joseph's journey toward greatness would begin not on a throne, but in the darkness of a pit. Jacob often sent Joseph to check on the welfare of his brothers as they tended the flocks far from home. One day, Joseph set out from Hebron to the distant fields near Shechem, unaware that the journey ahead would forever change his life. When his brothers saw him approaching from afar, his colorful coat unmistakable in the sunlight, they seized their opportunity. Resentment hardened into decision. Envy became violence. The hatred that had grown in whispers now spoke aloud. The brothers conspired against Joseph, and as he greeted them with the innocence of one who suspects no evil, they responded with cruelty. They stripped him of his coat, ripping away the symbol of favor, and cast him into a dry pit, a deep and empty cistern carved into the earth. As Joseph cried out for mercy, their hearts remained cold. To them, removing Joseph was removing a problem, ending a rivalry, silencing a dream. But God's plans cannot be torn away like a garment. Even in the pit, Joseph was within the reach of divine purpose. As the brothers sat down to eat, unmoved by Joseph's pleas, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders approached on its way to Egypt. Greed flickered in Judah's mind, joining hands with envy. Why leave Joseph to die when they could profit from his disappearance? The brothers agreed, pulled Joseph from the pit, and sold him to the passing merchants for 20 pieces of silver. Joseph, once a beloved son, now became a slave, carried away from the land of his fathers and the warmth of his home. The caravan moved steadily across the desert, the winds carrying the scent of spice and balsam. Joseph, bound and silent, looked back at the fading horizon of Canaan. Every familiar sight grew smaller until it vanished. His coat was gone. His status was gone. His freedom was gone. Yet what remained, faith, integrity, and the unseen hand of God, would become the foundation upon which his future would be built. Meanwhile, the brothers dipped Joseph's coat in the blood of a young goat and presented it to Jacob. The father who had loved Joseph so deeply collapsed in grief as he recognized the torn and blood-stained garment. He assumed that Joseph had been torn apart by wild beasts, and his sorrow consumed him. The cries of Jacob echoed through the encampment, a heartbreak so deep that no words could comfort him. What the brothers thought was the end of Joseph's story was only the beginning of a divine unfolding far beyond their imagination. As Joseph arrived in Egypt, a land of towering monuments, bustling markets, and powerful rulers, his life entered a new chapter. Though stripped of freedom, he was not stripped of purpose. Though separated from his family, he was not separated from God. And though his dreams seemed shattered, they were not forgotten. The God who had given Joseph those dreams was the same God who would guide him through slavery, false accusation, imprisonment, and ultimately into a place of extraordinary influence. But Joseph did not know what lay ahead. All he knew was that he was alone in a foreign land, surrounded by unknown tongues and unfamiliar customs. Yet even here, in the lowest point of his life, a quiet truth remained. God was with him. And where God is present, even suffering becomes a path toward destiny.